Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaya Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriya Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, Chapter 1, the curse upon the Yadu dynasty. Text number 4 onwards. Navanyata paribhavasya bhavet kathanchin matsanshrayasya vibhavo annahanasya nityam antah kalyam yadukulasya vidhaya venus stambasya bahanim iv shantimupami dhama. Lord Krishna thought no outside force could ever bring about the defeat of this family, the Yadu dynasty, whose members have always been fully surrendered to me and are unrestricted in their opulence. But if I inspire a quarrel within the dynasty, that quarrel will act just like a fire created from the friction of a bamboo in a grove. And then I shall achieve my real purpose and return to my eternal abode. So the topic that is going on, the how this Yadu dynasty is going to be finished. Different reasons are given, but it was all started by Krishna only. Krishna wanted them to go back to the spiritual world. So here he is thinking, nobody else could do this. They are so powerful, so great, and moreover, they are still so surrendered to Krishna. Nobody could defeat them. So Krishna says, I have to do something. Even though Lord Krishna wanted to arrange for the disappearance of the members of the Yadu dynasty, he could not personally kill them, as he had killed many demons, because the Yadu dynasty was his own family. One might ask why Lord Krishna did not arrange for them to be killed by others. Therefore, it is stated in this verse, Navanyata paribhava asya bhavet kathanchit. Because the Yadu dynasty was the Lord's own family, no one within the universe was capable of killing. No one even in the universe, not even the demigods, could kill them. In fact, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out that no one within the universe was capable of even insulting the members of the Yadu dynasty, what to speak of defeating or killing them. Why? Because they were personally related to Krishna. They were devotees of Krishna. The reason is given here by the words Mat Sanshrayasya. The members of the Yadu dynasty had fully taken shelter of Krishna. And therefore, they were always under the personal protection of the Lord. It is stated, Mare Krishna Rakhe ke Rakhe Krishna Mare ke. If Krishna protects someone, no one can kill him. And if Krishna wants to kill someone, no one can save him. Krishna had originally requested all of his associates, along with the demigods, to appear on the earth to assist him in his pastimes. Now that his pastimes are coming to an end on this particular planet and would be transferred to another planet in another universe, Krishna wanted to remove all of his associates from the earth so that in his absence, they would not constitute a burden. Since the powerful Yadu dynasty, being the Lord's personal family and army, could not possibly be defeated by anyone, Krishna arranged an internal quarrel. Just as the wind in a bamboo forest sometimes rubs the bamboos together and creates a fire that consumes the entire forest. So this is how bamboo forests are burned down. Nobody burns them. It's a wind. When it blows, it just creates a friction between the two bamboos. It creates fire. Because if the bamboos are dry, then they just create fire friction because of friction, and this just kills the whole forest. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has pointed out that ordinary people hearing of the adventures of the Yadu family might think that the heroes of the Yadu dynasty are as worshipable as Krishna, or that they are independent controllers. In other words, people polluted by Mayavad philosophy might see the Yadu dynasty as being on the same level as Krishna. Therefore, to establish that even the most powerful living entity can never equal or surpass the Supreme Lord, Krishna arranged for the destruction of the entire Yadu dynasty. Sometimes it is also said that, oh, Gandhari, she cursed Krishna because she was saying, you could have protected my family, but you let them die, so you also should lose your family. That could be, one of the external reasons. Otherwise, no curse works on Krishna or Krishna's family. It just as a pastime he could have done that. But it all happened because Krishna wanted them to live. And also, he did not want to leave them behind, because once Krishna left this universe, then anything could have happened. This powerful Yadu dynasty could have just gone astray. And also, further in the verses, it's explained. Evam vyavasito rajan satya sankalpa ishvara shapa vyajena vipranam sanjahane swakulam vibhu. My dear King Parikshit, when the Supreme Almighty Lord, whose desire always comes to pass, had thus made up his mind, he withdrew his own family on the pretext of a curse spoken by an assembly of Brahmins. So, of course, we'll study more of this curse later, but that's also a pretext. No Brahman curse, Gandhari's curse could have affected the Yadu dynasty. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has made a very important comment on this verse. He states that since the intentions of the Supreme Lord Krishnachandra are always perfect, it was certainly in consideration of the greatest benefit for the entire world that he destroyed his own family on the pretext of a curse by Brahmins. In this connection, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has shown a parallel in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself appearing as his own devotee. So what did Mahaprabhu do? Lord Chaitanya appeared along with his first plenary expansion known as Lord Nityananda Prabhu and with Lord Advaita Prabhu. All three personalities, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Prabhu, are accepted by Vaishnava Acharyas to be in the category of Vishnu Tattva, the full status of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These three personalities of Godhead perceived that in the future, their so-called seminal descendants would get an undue recognition and thus, being puffed up, would commit grave offenses against those who were actually Vaishnava gurus or representatives of the Lord. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he himself did not have any children, although he was married twice. Nityananda Prabhu had, and even Advaita Prabhu, we'll study later. So the point is, seminal descendants of such great personalities, spiritual personalities, or the Lord himself, might not be on the same level. So the point is, one who is following the instructions properly, he should be more recognized than just a seminal descendants. And here Krishna, and that is also reason Krishna just finished his Yadu dynasty and just took them all back. Otherwise, he had 16,108 queens with from every queen 10 sons and a daughter. Just completely annihilated the whole dynasty. He didn't want people to give undue recognition and then start thinking they are as good as Krishna and we should worship them. Nothing wrong in respecting, of course, anybody born in that family, a descendant of Krishna or Mahaprabhu or Nityanand Prabhu, Advaita, they're all very respectable. Those souls are not ordinary souls, obviously. But they should not, if they're not qualified, they should not be respected as much as Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu. That's the point. Every living being is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Mamaivansha. Every living entity is originally a son of God, yet to execute his pastimes, the Lord selects certain highly qualified living entities whom he allows to take birth as his personal relatives. But those living entities who appear as descendants of the Lord's personal family may undoubtedly become proud of such a position and thus abuse the great adulation they receive from ordinary people. So they can get proud. What to speak of descendants of the Lord or the great living entities? Even we are talking about the person should be qualified spiritually and scripturally. Have taken, just like in Guru Parampara, he should have taken initiation. But even in that case, people become proud. They become arrogant. That I'm initiated from such and such guru and I do this kind of tapasya and I know so many of shlokas and I know scriptures backwards also. The pride comes before the fall. So unnecessary recognition can make a person proud and he falls down from the spiritual path. So one has to be very, very careful whom we approach for knowledge, for spiritual instructions, for anything like that. And it's written, in this way, such persons may artificially get undue attention and divert people from the actual principle of spiritual advancement, which is to surrender to the pure devotee who represents the Lord. The last 8 verses of the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita give a description of the pure devotees the Lord permits to act as acharyas or spiritual leaders of mankind. So their wonderful qualities of the pure devotees are given, and it is what they're very dear to me. Krishna says they're very dear. This person who has this quality is very dear, very dear, very dear. In other words, simply to take birth in the personal family of Krishna is not the qualification for being a spiritual master. Since according to Bhagavad Gita, Pitahamasya Jagata, every living entity is eternally a member of Lord's family. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Samaham Sarva Bhuteshu. I am equal to everyone. No one is my enemy and no one is my special friend. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears to have a special family, such as the Yadu dynasty, such a so-called family is a special arrangement of the Lord's pastimes in order to attract the conditioned souls. When Krishna descends, he acts as if he were an ordinary person in order to attract the living entities to his pastimes. Therefore, Krishna acted as though the Yadu dynasty was his personal family, although in fact, every living entity is a member of his family. So yes, Yadu dynasty is special, very, very special souls who appeared in that family and they performed and they helped Krishna in his pastimes. But that was about it. Ordinary people, however, not understanding the higher principles of spiritual knowledge, easily forget the actual qualifications of a bona fide spiritual master and instead give undue importance to people born in the Lord's so-called family. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore avoided this impediment on the path of spiritual enlightenment by leaving behind no children, because he didn't want all these issues later on. Although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu married twice, he was childless. Nityanand Prabhu, who is also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, did not accept any of the natural sons born of his own son, Shri Veerbhadra. So Veerbhadra was the only son of Nityanand Prabhu, and he did not accept any of the natural sons born of Shri Veerbhadra as his own. Similarly, Lord Advaita Acharya divested of his association all of his sons except Achyutananda and two others. Advaita Acharya had many sons. I forgot how many he had, but he just recognized Achyutananda and two others. Achyutananda, the chief faithful son of Advaita Acharya, had no seminal progeny. And the remaining three of the six sons of Lord Advaita fell from the path of devotion to the Lord and are known as rejected sons. But again, Advaita Acharya is a combined form of Mahavishnu and Sadashiv. Not an ordinary person, he's Vishnu Tattva himself. And if a person is born as a seminal son of Advaita Acharya, it cannot be an ordinary person or an ordinary living entity. They might fall down, as it is said here, fell from the path of devotion just to make sure that nobody follows a seminal descendancy. But they cannot be ordinary people, cannot be ordinary living entity. So that way we should always respect them. But obviously we cannot follow as a spiritual guides. In other words, the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu allowed little facility for continuing a so-called seminal family to create confusion. The respect shown to the conception of seminal lineage in deference to the ideas of the Smartas is unfit to be accepted by one who actually understands the supreme truth from Vedic authority. And also, this is one of the reasons, as we discussed the other day, Maharaj Prataprudra, Maharaj Indradam, when he established Lord Jagannath's temple and the worship of Lord Jagannath, he asked that I should not have any son in my family. Nobody should lay a claim on your temple. It's your temple. You're the proprietor, controller of this temple, not any of my descendants. So, but there is King of Jagannath Puri, and he performed his duties, services towards Lord Jagannath, but he never has a son. Lord comes in the dreams of the main Panda, and then he tells him, adopt this boy from this family, from whichever village or whichever place, and that boy should be raised as next King of Puri. See, so careful everybody was. Other acharyas or spiritual masters have also demonstrated this point in their own families. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, our own beloved spiritual master, who's a mighty author of this Srimad Bhagavatam series, was born in a family of pure devotees, and he himself exhibited all the symptoms of pure devotional service from his very childhood. Srila Prabhupada eventually came to the Western countries and exhibited unprecedented spiritual potency in establishing the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. In a few short years, he translated more than 50 large volumes of Vedic philosophy. By his practical activities, he is certainly understood to be a most empowered representative of the Lord. Nonetheless, his own family members, all the devotees of Krishna, did not at all come up to the proper standard of devotional service, and are therefore not given attention by the members of ISKCON. So his own sons, seminal sons, they did not come up to the same standard. The natural tendency for the members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness would be to offer all reverence and worship to the members of Srila Prabhupada's immediate family. But since by Krishna's arrangement, these family members are not at all on the platform of pure devotional service, the members of ISKCON give them hardly any attention, but instead worship those who actually exhibit the qualities of highly advanced Vaishnavas, regardless of their so-called birth. In other words, birth cannot constitute the qualification for a respectable person, even when one is born in the Lord's own family or in the Acharya's family, but to speak of an ordinary wealthy or learned family. And many, many times, not always, I won't say always, but many, many times, even in business families, not necessarily if the father is a good businessman, good industrialist, good leader, his son would be the same, would have the same acumen. Not necessarily. In India, there is a class of men known as Nityanand Vansha, who claim to be the direct descendants of Lord Nityananda and therefore worthy of the highest respect for their position in devotional service. In fact, I have also met a person, and I met him in America, and he was doing a job. He was in IT industry. And when he found out I'm in ISKCON, then he said, well, he's a Nityananda Vanshi. He's come from the family of Lord Nityananda. So I was happy to meet him, but since he wasn't following anything, there was no other interaction. In this regard, Srila Prabhupada has written in the Nectar of Devotion, in the Middle Ages, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya's great associate, Lord Nityananda, a class of priestly persons claimed to be the descendants of Nityananda, calling themselves the Gosai caste. They further claimed that the practice and spreading of devotional service belonged only to the particular class which was known as Nityananda Vansha. In this way, they exercised their artificial power for some time until Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, powerful Acharya of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, completely smashed their idea. There was a great hard struggle for some time, but it has turned out successful, and it is now correctly and practically established that devotional service is not restricted to a particular class of men. Besides that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already a high-class Brahmin. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's struggle for this movement has come out successful. It's on the basis of his position that anyone from any part of the universe can become a Gaudiya Vaishnava. So anybody can perform bhakti because it is open to all. Every soul is part and parcel of Krishna. So bhakti or being a spiritual master should not be limited to one family only. And it cannot be also. In other words, the essence of spiritual knowledge is that every living being, regardless of his present status in life, is originally a servant of the Supreme Lord. And it's the mission of the Lord to reclaim all of these fallen living entities. Despite his past situation, any living being who is willing to surrender again at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord or his bona fide representative can purify himself by strictly adhering to the rules and regulations of Bhakti Yoga, and thus act as a high-class Brahman. Nonetheless, the seminal descendants of the Lord think themselves to have acquired the ancestors' character and position. There's a Supreme Lord who is a well-wisher of the entire universe and especially of his devotees, bewilders the discriminatory power of his own descendants in such a contradictory way that these seminal descendants become recognized as divine, and the actual qualification to be representative of the Lord, namely unalloyed surrender to the will of Krishna, remains prominent. So that is more important. It's not that a descendant the Lord or Acharya cannot be a spiritually advanced person. It's not that. He can be. Why not? But just being the descendant is not the qualification. That's all it is. So one has to follow the rules, follow the procedure, and then purify himself and purify others. That's the whole purpose. So that's why Krishna completely annihilated his own dynasty so that nobody can lay a claim. Okay, so I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay, so we'll stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.